At LSI, we don't just follow trends, we help shape the future. Welcome to Behind the Win, the podcast where we break down the biggest moves in tech, innovation, leadership, and government contracting. Here at LSI, we're bringing you exclusive conversations with the minds behind groundbreaking advancements, disruptive strategies, and industry-defining wins. From retail to tech, defense to government solutions. This is where you get the insights to stay ahead. Let's go behind the win.
Welcome back to Behind the Win. Today we're doing something a little different. We're flipping the script. I'm Kevin Jacobson, Director of Executive Administration here at LSI, and Sarah's assistant. And instead of Sarah hosting, I'll be putting her in the hot seat. Sarah is our president and CEO, the force behind this podcast, and today we're going to get to learn more about her story, her leadership, and what really goes into Behind the Win. Sarah, are you ready?
Yes, I think so.
Well, we're going to have some fun, so let's get to it. So let's start with the obvious. What made you want to launch Behind the Win in the first place?
So Sean, the previous CEO, launched it about probably, I'd say 4 years ago, and he did it for a good 2.5 years. And for me, coming into LSI brand new and not in government contracting, there wasn't a lot of process and procedures or control around the information at LSI. So it was the best repository for me that I could go listen to him, interview clients, internal people, business leaders, government leaders, and that I could gain this kind of like retrospect and just information that I needed to understand what LSI had done in the past and what they did. So I loved it for that. And they had a bunch of micro trainings, and it was just great information for me that I could listen to and getting ready in the morning, driving, etc. So when I took over CEO a year and a half ago, I just said, I need a minute. I got to get my feet under me in this new role. And then the intention was always to bring it back. And so because I loved it and loved the guests, and that's why I really wanted to bring it back. And I think it showcases, people always say with a podcast, like, it's got to be revenue generating. You got to have sponsors or like certain things. But for me, I think it's informational for our internal employees. I think it's informational for people who may be looking into using us. So I like it because we get to interview some really cool people and just something a little bit different from your typical marketing and promo type, spots.
Great. So how did we land on the name Behind the Win, and what does a win mean to you?
So when I came here to LSI, on our website, LSI Wins, everybody was saying, like, what does LSI do? And Sean would always just say, we help our clients win, right? It's been such a big one syllable word that they have used for 50 plus years of what we do. And so when he had come up with the name, and I loved it and wanted to keep it, right? The same is that it's just like, let's celebrate all the wins, no matter how big or small, and like really the backstory to them of what happened or why they took place. So that's really what it is. It's like behind the win of, it can be someone who's running a multi-million-dollar hair salon, somebody who's running government, somebody who's working for a contract DoD on base for, the F-35s. It really resonates in any industry or market. And I forgot the second part of that. Sorry.
What does a win mean to you?
Win means that we, what value did we bring? What impact did we have? If it's with a client, whether that's private or public sector, internally, that win is really the definition of explaining the value or impact we had in that project, situation, moment, etc.
Great. So we had a couple missteps getting started again. So do you remember like when you really felt like, oh yeah, this is actually going to happen. It's not just going to be an idea.
Yeah, I think missteps are a great way to explain that. We've had our run of the mill of production companies, managers, and even getting our last one, Cam, we've had for a long time. I think I really realized it when we were in Paris at the Paris Air Show, and we had our launch date, and it was going to be while some of the team was in Paris. And, we wanted to kick it off with Sean, and ran into where we couldn't do his video because it didn't line up from the previously previous production managers that they couldn't, their recording sucked, right? And so, but I wanted it, to me, it felt like it had to start with him, and it started with him, ended it with him, and then to pick back up with him for sure. And so, but I think probably, was that June 17th? I was like, yes, okay, we were in Paris and I knew it was going to happen, but it had been, God, I mean, almost 9 months, right? That we'd had guests scheduled, that we'd done recordings, had to do re-recordings, had lost, lots of time with lots of different folks. And so that is when it felt real to me, was probably with Sean and then Aaron Parnas's, session. So
segueing, you've had some amazing guests
Mhm.
and industry leaders, influencers, people from government and business. Which episodes stand out the most so far to you, and why?
This is a hard, because they all do. I love you all. You were all great. We literally haven't had a bad one. You know what I mean? But for sure for me, because I love TikTok. So I'm on TikTok a lot. We're, uploading our episodes on there. We're doing, like, looking at different research. We do a lot of stuff on there. And so I had been following a guy named Aaron Parnas for a while, a Gen Zer who really was reporting just the news, right? He just would do, and he did it in these micro segments and micro trainings. And it wasn't, he doesn't tend to lean, although more lately it's a little hard not to. In some areas, he doesn't tend to lead more left or right. He just is giving the news on both sides. So I thought, when we were getting guests, I'm like, what the hell? I'm going to email him, right? I'm just going to see what he says. We responded instantly. And I think I ran into your office. I was like, holy shit, Aaron Parnas responded. And so, he's got millions of followers on TikTok and Instagram and all these, and, Substack and YouTube. And so he was like, yeah, when? Let me know. I'm in. And I'm like, holy cow. And so I love that, because he's such a big influence. I don't know many people who don't know his name today.
Right.
If you don't, you're a nerd. Okay, get on TikTok.
Yeah, because he's up to 6 million followers now.
Yeah, he's great. And so I loved his episode. It was easy to talk to him. He is not scripted at all. I mean, he doesn't care what you ask him. He just can roll with it. And so he was great. But I mean, I love our internal people, because they stress over it. And I'm like, guys, you're the subject matter experts in the field that we're talking about, or the subject. So chill out. But they're always great too, and they're fun. And some of our state leaders were, amazing. But I did love, one of our board members is Val Hill. He's the former athletic director at BYU, and he ran the governor's office of economic opportunity. It was called Go Ed at the time in Utah. And so I loved his episode too, because we talked a lot of shop football, which is what I love. And I have college football season tickets, not to BYU, but to the U. And so we got to talk about that and NIL and all that. So that was super cool. But there's just so many inspiring people that have come on that, I mean, to rank them, I couldn't. They're all great. And they all have some bits of information that I walk away. And I was just telling our podcast prior to this, they like, which one were your favorites? And I'm like, Kevin will, every time I walk in, he's like, how was that? And I'm like, that was great. Like, the only time I've ever said it isn't is if we've had technical difficulties. And I'm like, other than that, I'm like, they were all so amazing.
Yeah.
So
great. So what's one moment during a recording that surprised you or has stuck with you long after?
I think a couple ones. I think one, again, is Val. I'm going to bring him up, Hell, to learn about the things that he did that were so innovative at BYU that increased their ticket prices, and the things that he did. And I'm not going to give it away on this, but go watch the episode. That's my plug. But that now it's being still done today, 10, 15 years after he's retired. And it's like, it's impossible to get BYU basketball tickets ever. And so it's just these things that he implemented. So that was like really surprising, just not surprising, because all these people are great and they're very creative and innovative, but to hear that. And then I am always surprised that, we interviewed Aaron Starks from 47G. He is like a human encyclopedia on stats. I love him. We're great friends, but I'm like, the stats that he rambles off, I'm just like, that's so interesting. I feel like I'm taking notes during it, But a lot of it too is just kind of adversity. And and the thing that surprised me out of all of them is not all of them are like officially public servants, right? They run nonprofits. To me, same damn thing. They work for government, they're doing business, but they care about the mission, the warfighter, the people. Like, they actually give a shit about people. And that's what I love, is that it's just surrounded by, Cam and I were talking, we've had 24 or 5 episodes so far since we launched in June, and every one of them do such amazing things that it's so inspiring that I then had to be like, okay, I've got to, when someone asked me to be on the board, I said yes. And I've got to do some things because these people are giving back to their communities and organizations and still doing kick-ass stuff in their day-to-day jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's awesome. So if you had to describe the podcast's impact so far in one word, what would it be?
educational, I think, for
Yeah.
sure. Just because if we aren't just around government contracting, we're not just around aerospace and defense. We've had sectors all over, and that's what I wanted, was diversity. I wanted to diversify the people who came on. And so it's just, to me, it's educational. I love it. And there's been a few I've gone back to because I'm like, oh my gosh, what Chet said that guy's name, or Aaron said this. And I go back and it's even educational to me. So
Great. So sometimes I think people think hosting a podcast, oh, that's so easy, but it's not easy as it sounds. So what is your prep process like before you do an episode?
do you guys think it's easy? Cam? I'm like, there is a lot of stuff that goes into this, because it's not just you guys, like, Kez, you're taking care of all. We are finding the guests. We're reaching out to them. You're scheduling them. We then have to give them 3 topics to choose from. They give us ones they like back. We have to create a script, create questions, because people want to know what you're going to ask them before they get here. They don't want to show up unprepared like I did today. So they, they want to be prepared. But so it's all the pre-work. And then once we record, recording is the easy part, right? When you're in and just having this like genuine, authentic conversation back and forth, that's amazing. And it's afterwards, then the editing, you're doing all the artwork, the proofs, we have to get it out to them for their approval. Like, it's crazy. So I think there's so much that goes into it that that's why, we wanted to see the numbers, and we wanted to have some ROI on it. And we're starting to see those numbers grow in that ROI, but it's like it's so much work. So a lot of it's reputational. It's just legitimizing your business, like doing things like that. But I think you guys can say it's a shit ton of work, right?
Yeah. And it's,
yeah.
Yeah. Because one of my friends asked me about that. They're like, oh, podcasts are easy, right? And I was like, no.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know if you're like a YouTuber and you just like crawl it. You have a room that's set up and you just like crawl in and start,
right.
taping. I don't know, but it's crazy because we have virtual ones and in person. We try to do as many in person as we can, but no, it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
for sure.
So do you get nervous before your interviews?
I get a couple things. One, I get nervous because I don't like technical difficulties. You guys know that. We've had 1 or 2 and I lose my shit for sure. Because you're taking people's time, and their time's valuable. And that's one thing that, like, I don't want to waste people's time, nor do I want, to think I don't know, that we're not valuing their time. Right. And so that's why we try to get it in short, get them in and out. So technical difficulties, I always get nervous, especially on virtual, like, hey, has it started? Are we recording? Did it get all that? So a little bit, but then I don't get nervous to talk to them, even because a lot of times I don't know them until they walk in. Right. So I love that, but you never know how your chemistry is going to jive, and some are a little bit, some can be more short answered and a little bit drier, and you've got to like figure that out on the go. So you got to be able to pivot, but I get a little bit nervous till the conversation gets going again. So it takes a minute to get the flow and the cadence, but then after that, I'm fine. I don't get nervous when they launch or anything like that. But
yeah. So how do you balance running the company with hosting the podcast?
Well, then Kevin books me from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. tonight. That's how. So today I was like, I just got back from vacation and we have 3 podcasts and no time in between. Anyways, but I think that
Kevin, that bastard.
Yeah. You have good people. You hire great people around you to help you and to support you. And We would never prioritize a podcast over running the business. It's always that we work it around, both of you guys know, we're working around the schedules of, business and what brings in revenue and what helps our mission and our impact and stuff first. So, I think it's just finding that balance for sure.
So you wear the two big hats. You're the CEO of the company, and then you're hosting the podcast. So how do you connect those two roles?
I think that being a CEO, like I said, you want to hire the right people, have the best people around you to help and support you, but you also have to be willing to listen and to those boots on the ground. And so I feel like when I, I kind of follow this regimen. We've talked a bit, I think a little bit about it on here with Allie, in that episode, kind of this program that I do these certain 8 things every day. And I'm a little bit of a robot that way, right? Like I like routine, that's your body, your mind, your spirit, your, spiritual, everything. So I feel like when I get to interview these people, I learn something from every single one of them that is in leadership, that's in business, that's in risk taking. And I listen and try to apply that and say, hey, am I doing that in today's world? Am I, the HR folks we've had on here have been phenomenal. Jess, Tina, Catherine, they're so great that are just people first. And so they can help me. They kind of re-energize me too, so that I get back to, okay, am I listening to my people? Am I letting them talk? Am I asking them back, what would you do? Right. So I think there's so many things that I learn when I talk to people that it's kind of like my own little self-help, right? That I get to implement into what I do as CEO for sure.
Great. And so what leadership lessons have you carried into the podcast?
I think it's what I love to do, and whether I do that sometimes through humor or what, is I want to make people feel comfortable that they can open up, right? That they can tell me about their journey, their life story, their business background, the challenges that they've come across in life. And so what I've pulled from what I do today is I think my team would say I'm approachable. I am going to hold you accountable. Doesn't mean I'm not a hard ass, but I'm going to ask you the questions. I'm going to call it out, but I will help you figure it out too, and I'm okay if you fail and, we get back up and figure it out again. So I try to do that same thing, is to just like make someone feel comfortable. Like we're just having a conversation right now, right? That we're just bullshitting. We're getting to know each other. We're talking. Don't be nervous. And like, I just try to bring that into too, but I genuinely want to know about people's stories.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, as someone who works so closely with you, I can say that that's totally true. You're a great leader. You genuinely do care about your people and your staff. It's just awesome. I mean, we have a great relationship though.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
it's awesome. So if you could say one thing that you've learned from a guest that you've applied to your work at LSI, what would that be?
I think what was good, and I won't say who it is because I think we talked about it a little bit off air, but was that it bugged them to hear when people said, oh, if you're a mom and you work full time, if I'm a mom, if I'm a CEO, if I'm helping coach my kids' team, if I'm doing this, that I can't give my all to all of them. I'm half-assing them all. And they were like, no, you're not. Like you can do them all. And then you have this community, or we say this village around us that helps us, right? I go on vacation. I want to just took some time with my family to re-energize, recharge. And you're here pulling stuff in I need to look at night. And, someone else is like it takes this village. And so, yeah, you can do all those things. And I have brought that now to where I even kind of brought it up on another podcast today with someone else where I'm like, yeah, I don't believe that. I think that's kind of horseshit, really, is we can do all these things. Like I can be on a nonprofit and help them organize and give back to people. I can run the company. I can still be a good mom, but those things are just going to look different than someone else who's doing it. And so I loved that piece of information that this gal gave me that we interviewed. So I think that was probably one that has for sure stuck with me. Yeah, even to this day.
That's great. All right. So let's do a lightning round. So just some quick answers, whatever comes to mind first.
Okay.
So a favorite win in your life so far?
I I mean, the easy ones, I guess not easy, but the easy one would be like my kids for sure. I think I have 3 boys. I think they all have we have a great relationship. It's all very different with each of them, but for sure that win for me would be, I want to say for sure my family or my kids, but I think too is just like my health journey has been a win over the past 2 years. I've prioritized it. That doesn't just mean losing weight. That means like exercising mentally, right? Whether that's people getting into therapy, spiritually, whatever that looks like. I feel like I wanted to go into almost hitting 50. No one knows when that is. Maybe in a year, maybe in 2, but that I was kind of at that peak performance that I could be. I also have a young toddler that I had in my mid 40s. And so I wanted to have like peak performance in that. So to me, really, it's my body and in the mental state, physical state, etc., that I feel is a big win too for me most recently.
Great. A podcast you listen to besides this one?
Oh my gosh. Call Her Daddy. I love Bile Files. But Call Her Daddy, I love it. You're on one end of the spectrum or not with Alex Cooper, but I love the guests she has on. I love that she asks them hard questions, that it's comfortable. It doesn't, sometimes when you listen to a podcast, you can feel like, am I like listening at a door with a cup, to what, or it's like the vibe she brings with it. I love, so.
Cool. A dream guest you'd love to have on?
Man, I have 2, I'd say, but I don't want to get any flack for it for anybody. But I think I would take who I would dream guess. I would take Junior Bush or I'd take Obama in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Either of those 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing your team at LSI doesn't know about you.
I am a rule follower. Like I am very blunt. I will call someone out on a plane for like talking on speakerphone when none of us want to hear your conversation. I'm not shy at all, but when it comes to a rule follower, I feel like I will follow the rules. I have very calculated risks, you know what I mean? Like whether that's in business or whatever, but it was funny because they came out to me and said, hey, let's like put the kids to bed. And then like all the wives like at midnight, let's go down and like go and get in the pool. Well, the pool closes at 9. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And they're like, what? And they're like, why? And I'm like, cause it closes at 9. Like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? So I can have fun, but I think they would probably not know that I am a rule follower when it comes to kind of certain, things for sure.
Awesome. So your coffee order, what gets you through recording days?
Oh my gosh. You guys, I'm going to read one because I'm going to tell you a story with this is that I took this drink and they accidentally made me 2. And we went to one of our contracts on base here at Hill Air Force Base. And I walked in and Bill, of course, one of the guys that works here at LSI is like, what's that frou-frou drink? And I was like, oh, well, I have an extra one. Why don't you try it? And then he like drank the whole thing. And the next day he said, hey, can you send me the order of that drink so I don't ever order it again? And I was like, sure. But it's so funny because my husband will not order this drink. And neither will I unless it's on the app because it's so embarrassing to say all these things because it's ridiculous. But so let me tell you. And these are the ones that like, again, if you don't have TikTok, get with the times and get on it because they have so many, but it's an ice shaken espresso venti with caramel drizzle, oat milk, vanilla sweet cream cold foam, line the cup with caramel sauce, 3 pumps caramel syrup, 3 pumps classic, 5 white chocolate mocha sauce. It's a mouthful.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what does.
I thought mine was a lot.
That's bougie, or I just like a soy hazelnut latte.
That's great. And what's the best advice you've ever received?
This, it's great. It's one of my old bosses who don't know how I haven't had him on this podcast yet, but he's going to be on. But he said to always take the blame and pass on the credit. And so that was from, good leaders will, whether it was their idea, their team brought it to fruition, whatever, they're always going to pass the credit. And then they're, on to other people, pass the credit, and that they're going to, when something goes wrong, take the blame. Don't pass the blame on to other folks. So
that's great. So last question, what do you hope listeners take away when they tune in to the podcast each week?
I hope that they just say, if it's not something, maybe it would be someone in government and they're like, how am I going to resonate with someone who runs a multi-million-dollar hair salon? Let me tell you how, because she's a rock star, because she does X, Y, and Z, because she does this, or vice versa, if the hair owner, the hair stylist owner of that salon says, how am I going to resonate with someone who's running the governor's office in Michigan? That they're, well, you're going to, I hope that they just find something that they resonate with and it's educational. And I have some friends that are in entirely different fields and they're like, we love it because we just don't know. It's nothing we knew before. So I hope that they are inspired, but I also hope that they, just learn something new.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So thank you for letting me flip the script today.
Thank you.
This has been super fun. And I think our listeners are going to love hearing more of your story and, just hearing about how you lead the company and what really goes on behind the win. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in and being part of the Behind the Win community.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a little information. So until next time, we hope to see you back on Behind the Win.